This is a meeting of the Mayor and Council of Borough and Highlands, June 2nd, 2021, regular meeting. Executive session was canceled. Regular meeting, 8 p.m. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times and by posting at the Borough of Highlands Municipal Building and filing with the Borough Clerk all on January 1st, 2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now call roll. Councilmember Martin is absent. Councilmember Mazzola. Here. Councilmember Melnick.
Here.
Council President Olszewski. Here. Mayor Briand.
Here.
Thank you. Approval of minutes. There are none for tonight. Ordinances. We have 3 ordinances for public hearing and final adoption. The first is O-2120, an ordinance amending Chapter 4-2 of the Borough Code concerning the licensing of peddlers, hawkers, and vendors.
Before I open this to the public, I just wanted to reiterate, as I did at the first introduction, this is really just to update this ordinance and to allow for some service-oriented mobile vendors instead of just food or products-oriented mobile vendors. With that, I'll open it to the public. Does anyone at the table have any comment regarding this ordinance? Okay, I'll open it to the public. Seeing no questions, I will close the public portion, the public hearing rather, and I will offer this ordinance.
Second.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski? Yes. Mayor Briand?
Yes.
This ordinance has passed on second and final reading. Next ordinance is O-2124, an ordinance repealing Section 7-3.8 of the Borough Code regarding residents-only permit parking on certain streets.
I would like to table this ordinance until the 7/14 meeting, as we are still doing some tweaking on it. So I'd need a second on that.
Second.
Got a question for you, though.
There is no public comment on this just yet because it's been tabled.
That was the motion, not the motion, right?
I made the motion, it was seconded.
Seconded. That will be roll call.
Yes.
Hey, speak up, you can hear.
Sure, you got it.
Okay, I'll now call roll. Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Mayor Briand?
Yes.
Okay. This ordinance has been tabled to the July 14th, meeting. The next ordinance is O-2125, an ordinance repealing Section 7-3.8 of the Borough Code regarding temporary permit parking for residents during Washington Ave reconstruction project.
To explain this ordinance, this was an ordinance made in 2007 for repairs that were being done at the time. It was determined that it was no longer necessary, so we were taking it from the code book. Is there any question on this ordinance from the table? No? And with that, I will make a motion.
I'll second. Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Wait, do we have public motion?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Public hearing. Is there any questions from the public regarding this, repealing this ordinance from 2007? Seeing no one wanting to make a comment, I will close the public hearing and again make that motion.
I'll second. Thank you. Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Mayor Briand?
Yes.
Okay, this ordinance has passed on second and final reading. Next item on the agenda is we have 3 ordinances for introduction. The first is O-2126, an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Schedule 1, no parking of the Code of the Borough of Highlands related to areas of no parking in various locations throughout the borough.
This one, too, will need to get tabled, as there are still discussions between the chief and the attorney as to the streets in question. And so I will need a second.
Second.
That was Councilmember Melnick for the second?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Councilmember Mazzola?
Motion to table to June 16th. Is that correct?
A motion to table until June 16th.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Oshesky?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Okay, this ordinance is tabled to intro June 16th with a public hearing set for July 14th. The next ordinance is O-2127, an ordinance amending Chapter 2-10.15 of the Borough Code with regard to hourly rates for officers performing off-duty work.
Mr. Michello, would you like to briefly explain why we need to have this on the agenda?
There we go. This just updates the Borough Code to have the same amount as the contract of the PBA.
With that, I will make a motion.
I'll second.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Oshesky?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Okay. This ordinance has passed on first reading with public hearing set for June 16, 2021. The last ordinance for introduction tonight is O-2128, bond ordinance providing for the construction of a new municipal building appropriating $10 million, therefore and authorizing the issuance of $4,750,000 bonds and notes to finance a portion of the cost thereof, authorized in and by the Borough of Highlands in the County of Monmouth, New Jersey.
I would like to make a motion to table this, since Councilmember Martin is not here tonight.
Councilmember Martin does not need to be here in order for this to be introduced.
I know, but I think it's a good idea if he is here, since he actually voted this down as well as I did last meeting. And I think it's too important of an ordinance for him not to be here.
It's also the ordinance you both voted yes for in the preliminary.
Well, there's a motion pending. Is there a second, right?
Think very carefully. Think very, very carefully. Yep. We'll keep you up on the job, not looking back.
There's no
Okay.
motion.
There's no second,
No.
so that motion fails.
All right.
I would advise everyone who's in the crowd right now to question why Councilmember Martin is not here tonight.
I'm not going to speak for anyone, so he can answer for himself once he is here. So there is an ordinance that is here. I'm going to make a motion to adopt. Or to introduce, I very apologize, to introduce. Yes.
Okay, and that was a second.
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Mazzola?
No.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Okay, this ordinance has passed on first reading with public hearing.
Ms. Olszewski.
Oh, I'm sorry. Council President Oshesky.
Yes.
Thank you. This ordinance has passed on first reading with public hearing set for June 16th.
Just a little note that if you cannot hold your tongues and you're going to be disruptive of the meeting, you will be asked to leave.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing on the 2021 budget amendment.
Pat, if you can, please start before we open it to the public?
Yes, hi, good evening. Last meeting, we voted on this resolution and it was approved, and it was a result of the administrator and I attended a local finance board meeting. We're trying to get our CDL loan extended to a 10-year period. They granted that extension, which was fine, but they suggested that we make our first 1/10 payment in this year's budget. As I said before, it's really not due until 2024, but it's a conservative thing to do, and that's the caveat that they put on this. So that's the result of this resolution here, so we have a public hearing on it.
Are you going to read the amended budget? Amendment to the budget?
This resolution here, I read it last meeting and it was voted on.
Right, but you have to read the, in full before the public hearing, the amendment.
Okay. All right, so, okay, so I'm going to read this thing as advised by the attorney. So it says, whereas the calendar year 2021 budget was approved on the 7th day of April 2021, and whereas the public hearing on said budget was held as advertised, and whereas it is desired to amend said approved budget, now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Borough of Highlands, County of Monmouth, that the following amendments be approved by the calendar year 2021 budget be made. And we have the votes there. Anticipated revenues, surplus anticipated goes from 1.5 million to 1,832,608.34. The totals are the same. Number 5, subtotal general revenues, items 1, 2, 3, and 4. It goes from 3,342,952.23, and it's amended to the number of 3,675,560.57. Total revenues go from 11,975,711.84, and it goes to 12,308,320.18. And now on the appropriation side, the CDL loan repayment, the principal portion goes from 0, and it goes to $266,086.67. And the CDL loan repayment interest portion goes from 0, and it goes up to $66,521.67, which brings the total municipal debt service excluded from caps from the original number of $1,160,008.06, and it goes to $1,492,616.40. Item H2, which is total general appropriations for municipal purposes excluded from caps, it goes from $2,734,1.29, and that number goes to $3,063,009.63. And item L, subtotal general appropriations, which is item H1 and item O, that goes from $10,875,711.84 to $11,208,320.18, almost there. And total appropriations go from $11,975,711.84, and it goes to $12,308,320.18. And good?
You read the amendment, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anyone have any questions on this amendment to the budget before we open it to the public?
No.
No? Does the public have any questions on this amendment to the budget? Yes, please.
Pat, can you please explain to the audience?
Ms. Drigo, if you could please go to the microphone so you could be properly recorded.
Thank you.
Claudette Dorigo, 12 Cedric. Pat, can you please explain to the audience the 10-year CDL loan that you're having extended, what that is? Because I don't think everybody here understands what that is.
Okay, I'll try my best. The town received lots of community disaster loan funding, and this is the portion that has to be repaid back as determined by FEMA. They initially wanted it to be repaid back over a 3-year period. The state contacted us, that new legislation came out, and they said, well, why do that? They now allow us to pay it over a 10-year period. So that would be the purpose of the CDL loan repayment, and that's why we did the budget amendment.
Is this same loan that you were asking, that was the grant originally that you were asking forgiveness on?
It was all a grant, and this is the portion that the FEMA group felt that was excess revenues provided to the town, so they wanted it to be repaid.
Okay, so the grant became a loan from FEMA, correct?
Correct.
Okay, I just want the audience to understand that we got a FEMA grant, and now it's a loan and we're paying it back over 10 years.
That's correct, but it was also funded for operations, okay? So they projected what your surpluses were going to be, so it was funded based on operations, and as our revenues came in stronger during those years, the Hurricane Sandy years, that's why it was pulled back.
And each taxpayer is assessed to help pay that back, correct?
It's assessed to pay back, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Kim Skorka, Short Drive. I just have a quick question. What's the interest rate on this loan?
The interest rate's going to be decided when we go out and borrow in 2024, okay? Well, do you think I know what the interest rate is 3 years from now when that 10-year treasury fluctuates the way it's been fluctuating? I read that rate every single day, so it's going to vary. So when we go out and borrow the money, that's when the interest rate's going to be determined.
Okay.
But-
Is it
But I'll let you know something, though, that we can borrow short-term money today at 0.28, okay? That's very, very low.
right? So but is it set as Treasury Plus?
No, it'd be
Basis, or-
set on the borrowing ability of the borough, which is pretty strong, and it'll be determined by the bidders.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Seeing nobody else come up, I will close the public hearing. Pat, just another quick question. This is not something that we were given any choice as to whether we could do this or not.
That's correct.
Okay. So the local finance board said that we had to do this.
Correct.
Okay. With that, I will offer this.
Second.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Resolution 21-110, correct?
Oh,
Read
yes,
that
yes,
again.
sorry. Yes, this is a motion for Resolution 21-110, a resolution adopting the 2021 municipal budget. Mayor Brian offered and Councilmember Melnick second. Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brian?
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries to adopt 2021 municipal budget. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for a New Jersey Department DEP Green Acres Program grant.
Hi, thank you. My name is Kelsey Howard. I'm from Colliers Engineering and Design, formerly Mazer, and I'm here to present the Snug Harbor Skate Park project for 2 grant applications that we're preparing. The first grant application is the DEP Urban Parks Initiative Program. That's a new program that's offered by the state with a deadline of June 15th. So it's a new program. They're prioritizing overburdened communities, so the state has mapped what they consider sections in town that are considered overburdened communities. Snug Harbor Park is within one of these areas. The max grant for the Urban Parks Initiative is $500,000. It's grant entirely. There is no match required. It is a competitive program. There's $2.5 million available. So what the program has said is there's also the Green Acres program that's due June 30th. If you are underfunded or unfunded from the Urban Parks Initiative, your application can be rolled into the Green Acres program. So that is the second program that we're applying for. And the Green Acres program funding, usually they do not fund any grants for park development projects. Usually it's a 2% loan payable over 20 years, 2% interest. However, if you're a densely or highly populated municipality, you can get a 25% grant. So Highlands is that. So we'd be requesting the $500,000 through the Urban Parks Initiative and also 25% of the total project cost through Green Acres, with the balance of the loan if you choose to accept that at the time of a grant agreement. The project is Snug Harbor Skate Park. Spawn Ranch has developed a rendering of a poured concrete consistent surface to replace the existing skate park that is asphalt surface and the bolted-in skate park features. So it includes the new concrete skate park, and then we've estimated some additional costs, ancillary site improvements, since the construction would have to impact the parking lot. It would be resurfacing and restriping the parking lot, including benches, picnic tables, fences, and park signage. So that total project cost that includes construction, and they allow a maximum of 13% soft costs. So that total cost is $599,013. Again, the grant from the Urban Parks Initiative we would request is the maximum $500,000. And then we would be applying for Green Acres 25% grant, $149,753, and the remaining 75% project cost, $449,260 for that loan if you choose to accept it, and if you're underfunded or unfunded by the Urban Parks Initiative. I can take any questions.
Does anyone at the table have any questions regarding either of these grants?
My question is more in reference to the way that the resolution is written. If you go to the bottom, I don't know if you have any involvement in that, Kelsey.
Yes, it's resolution templates provided by the program, and then we just insert the project details.
Okay, so my question involves paragraph number 2 at the bottom.
Is this 134 or 135?
They're both the same, actually. It's the same wording, except it's number 2 on 134 and number 3 on 135. That in the event the state's funds are less than the total project cost specified above, the applicant has the balance of funding necessary to complete the project. So with that, I think it's important that we address the public and let them know that the initial grant is for $500,000, but we might not get $500,000. It could be $100,000 or $200,000. And since the resolution states that we have the money to pay for the project, I think it's important that we address with the public how we intend to pay the difference if we also are not awarded the Green Acres grant, and if we don't want to take out another loan for $450,000.
So I will state that this is, the first step for the grant application. Yes, it is uncertain whether you'll be awarded any funding or what amount that will be. So it would be at the point that they select you and you generate the grant agreement, that would be the point where you would determine the funds available.
But if they don't select us and they don't give us any funding, we are not obligated to continue with the project.
Correct.
Yeah. Go ahead.
One of the ordinances that we had was passed last year. There's still a balance of about $860,000 for capital improvements. Was ordinance 20-07. So that could be used if there was extra, but at this point, we don't know, where we're at. But we do have the money in case we needed it.
But as Kelsey Ms. Howard rather just confirmed, if we don't get anything from the state, this would not be something that we'd be going after wholeheartedly. We're trying to offset the costs so that we have a benefit for our residents that's being funded by the state government.
Right. My concern is if we only get $100,000, then we're on the hook for $450,000, and I want to make sure, and I want I mean, I know the
Well,
answer.
then we don't have to accept it. If it's not enough money for us to cover it, then we're not on the hook at all. They would say, this is what we would give you, and then if we don't want to go that route, then we don't have to go through with the funding agreement.
I mean, I know that the answer, I was in touch with the professionals today, but I think it's important that the public understand that, you know what, we do have money that we can put towards the project. If we don't, you know, come out on the top with $500,000 for the project.
Just so that everyone understands, we're not obligated if we don't get funding from the state. You always want to look to have these costs offset by the state. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add to this about grants in general, or how this works with the state? Or the federal government, for that matter?
No, thank you.
Okay.
And there may be additional funds for the Urban Parks Initiative. I forgot to add that in the,
There may be another round?
there may be another round or additional funding through the state's 2022 budget. And Green Acres is typically offered every couple of years.
Right, I was just gonna ask that question, like, this doesn't preclude us from going after other Green Acres funding at some point in time in the future.
Excellent.
And Monmouth County has a program that's due in September for open space as well.
Thank you, Kelsey.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Does anyone from the public have comments on the skate park projects? Sir?
Ma'am, could you tell us the last time you got Green Acres money specifically for a park? You know?
I don't know firsthand.
If we take this money, Green Acres money, are we precluded in future years from getting money for any other Green Acres projects in the city?
No.
But typically, it's on some kind of cycle, I guess.
It's subject to when they decide to roll out a program based on the availability of funding. Typically, the last round was in February of 2019. They probably if COVID hadn't happened, they probably would have had a round earlier. So it's about every couple years.
Martin, can you just please state your name and address for the record?
B5, Mississippi Terrace. One final question. If we get the grant money and it's only $100,000, can we apply that grant money to a different project where that $100,000 would 100% fund one of the parks in town that needs beautification, or something along those lines?
No, typically it's based on whatever you put your application in. That's what's in the grant agreement and what the project they want you to do.
Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak to, I'm not sure who was up first.
Tim Scorpio Shore Drive, there are a lot of people in town that want to fundraise for this skate park. No, we're not going to raise $400,000. But I've talked to a lot of people, we're ready to go, we just wanted approval from the council. This was back pre-COVID, nobody's ever given approvals for us to set up a 501c to go forward and start fundraising. So if we're $100,000 short, I don't know if we could raise that, but there are people in town willing to organize events and fundraisers and art projects to help get this skate park done. So don't just throw your hands up if we fall short. Talk to the constituents, talk to the people in town, the business owners, the residents. We'll try to get what we can do to get the skate park done. It's important to the kids.
And that's what this hearing is about, to get everybody's input into this project.
I don't even have kids and I want to see the skate park done.
Well, we'd love letters of support. So.
Absolutely. Letters of support will go a long way if you can get them to Mr. Michello before,
Deadline.
I think it's actually by the middle of next week.
yeah, something like that. So I know today is the 2nd. If maybe letters can come in before the 10th, just so that we can organize them and put them all together and put them into the grant application, that would be fantastic. For the skaters that are in town, I see you out there. You're being silent, but I know you're here. Again, if you could just put your name and address for the record, just so that we have your comment on there, so we can put that in along with the grant packet as well.
So it's Austin, May, Mortimer Hospital.
Please, just your name and address for the record.
Melissa Way, 308 Madison Avenue. I have
Your voice is kind of soft. Could you just come to the microphone?
Hello,
Hello, everyone.
Hi there.
I have 5 children that attend school here, 2 of which are big-time skaters, and 2 have broken collarbones because of the conditions of the skate park, and my other one because he can't skate at the skate park and went skating through town, hit a pothole, and fell and broke his collarbone. We actually went to the doctor today for it, but anyway, so I really think that this would be, we had a neighbor the other day, my son went to go, he had glass in his wheel, and, a neighbor across the street gave him a broom to help sweep it up. I know my child would help clean up if that was the case that needed to be. I know my children are willing to do what they need to do to keep the skate park upheld. And it really would be better for them. I know my oldest has ADHD, and skating truly helps him. It's the only time he actually feels free and can breathe and think clearly when he skates. And he wasn't able to be here, he's at work tonight, but he really said, like, it would really be helpful if we had a real skate park without the metal stuff. This is falling apart, it's in an awful condition. And, it would be really great if we could have, like, the concrete slabbing and stuff like that, so that they could use it in the correct forms, in the correct ways, and not just sit there to melt their knees and get glass in their wheels and stuff like that. So it really would be a benefit to them for that.
Absolutely. Can I give you my copy, because I have it electronically?
Absolutely.
That way you could show your son. I'm sure he'll be pleased.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have a comment about the skate park? Oh, please, if you could.
Tom Steen, 87 Barbary Ave. I think the skate park is a fantastic idea. The facility as it exists today is essentially unusable. It's really not an option to skateboard in Highlands. And a good concrete skate park actually is quite an economic boon for a town. You should see Long Branch or Keyport on a busy day, and even in the middle of the winter you have families, children. It brings people in who are going to spend their dollars downtown here in town and then continue to come back. So not only is it going to make that space look better, it's going to bring people into town and be good for these businesses here.
Absolutely, thank you. And what we'll do is we'll make sure, once this is over, that we put this little packet, this PDF, we can put it up on the website. That way you all can see it in color, and it's really a great design. The folks over at Sporn did a really nice job putting it together for us. Please, if you'd... Is that John under that mask?
Council, Mayor, thank you. Thank you guys, everybody came out. We've been working on this for a long time. Very important to the kids in this town, very important to me, my family. How much would you need if you didn't get the grant money to pony up some of the $800,000?
Well, that's what we're going after, both of them together.
Right.
John, if you could just put your name and address so that the clerk has it for the record.
John Likens, 141 Avenue.
The initial cost, I believe, was $599. And that's all together, that's engineering, that's construction, all of it. So the one grant is for $500 without a match, the other grant is up to $500 with a 25% match. As Mr. Muscello said, we do also have some capital improvement money in there that we can look at it in different ways. The folks over at Sporn also gave us a lot of ways that we could solicit larger businesses to do in-kind contributions, ways to do fundraisings. It's a whole packet that we could get all of this together, but the first step is to go out and see how much we can get from the state, and then we can start supplementing from there.
And how long will we know how much we got from the state?
When did they award?
I don't think they told us that. Typically, it's a number of months. And then the 3 acres, the Garden State Preservation Trust selects and then allocates the funding from the state budget.
Well, especially the one that has no match. That's a brand-new program. This is the first year they have it. So we have some time
With all this publicity.
Get one.
Just to clarify, the Green Acres grant is a 25% grant, so it's a 75%
Match, yeah,
But that, if they have funding available, could be that low interest loan.
right.
I have a question, Kelsey. In reference to the Urban Parks Initiative grant,
Yeah.
which Mayor Brion just said is a brand-new endeavor. Once all of the submissions are placed, and you said what, June 15th or something?
June 15th is the Urban Park Initiative.
Okay, will you know how many applications were submitted?
I can ask, usually they'll state that in the notice of awards press release, but I can call them and ask how many.
Because I would be interested to find out how many applications were received.
I'll ask.
It's not a priority, but I would be interested.
Do any other members of the public have any other comments regarding the skate park project? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing.
And I'll leave this colored rendering in here.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I have an offer for 134?
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
I'll second.
Hold on. Okay. Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries to adopt.
And do I have one for 135?
I will do it. That's done. I'll second it.
Okay.
So that was a offer by Councilmember Melnick and a second by Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember,
135.
135.
Yes.
Department of Environmental State of New Jersey, Department of Environmental Protection, Green Acres Enabling Resolution.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt. Next item on agenda is resolutions. We have R21-126, a resolution authorizing the Land Use Board to undertake a preliminary investigation to determine whether various properties qualify for a designation as areas in need of redevelopment pursuant to NJSA 40A:12A-1 etc., and superseding prior resolutions 20-225 and 21-62.
I'll offer.
I'll second it.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt. Resolution R21-129, a resolution authorizing payment of bills.
The resolution that just got passed was an updated property list for the area of redevelopment for the commercial business districts. A couple of properties were left off, and so we wanted to include the entire district, so we put them on. This is being studied by the planners to be put into an area of redevelopment. In fact, it is being, there's going to be a little hearing on this tomorrow at the Land Use Board.
Exact properties on it.
All of the properties that are in the commercial business district. So the properties that go from Bay Avenue, from Gravelly Point to Veterans Park, and then the area where the borough offices and the recycling yard is, and then on Miller Street, I want to say 2 properties off the commercial properties that are on Bay Avenue. That's all to the best of my recollection. I think that's it.
It's, compliant to Bay Avenue.
Right, because it is all of the properties that are in the commercial business district. That was the former B1, B2 zone.
So I just want to narrow it down. The properties on this list are compliant to Bay Avenue addresses.
In certain areas, it's, like I said, where the Borough Hall is, that's on Shore Drive, and where the DPW yard, those are also in that commercial business district. But it's predominantly on Bay Avenue, but there's certain parts where it goes beyond Bay Avenue.
Waterwich? Is Waterwich on there?
Waterwich, not all the way down to the bay.
But any commercial property, anyone that's designated as a commercial property.
That's in that zone, yes, correct.
What happens if they're determined that these properties?
It's under a study right now, so we can't go before, we can't take steps that are after the steps that we're doing. Because there's over 150 properties on that list. They each need to be studied. It needs to be held to a criteria that is done by the state of New Jersey. What is redevelopment?
I think we're going.
We're going.
We're not a
Yeah.
public portion. There's
I know, we're not a public portion, and this is a much larger question that we've done with in the past with both the Shadow Lawn property and with the Coves property. We're doing it with this property. I could put out actually a very nice presentation that was done by the New Jersey League of Municipalities that describes redevelopment areas as well as the pros for certain types of redevelopment. I think I've given it out before.
It's in the redevelopment area, and it's designated for redevelopment.
No, this is not designating anything for redevelopment. This is studying it as redevelopment. But as I said, we are outside of public portion right now. We can go back to this at public portion, but this isn't the time to speak about this.
But this is just to make sure
Just to
that
study it.
area qualifies as in need of redevelopment. It's being studied, and there'll be, it's going before the planning board, the land use board.
Mayor, are the properties across the street from City Hall included on Shore Drive, the commercial properties? Right across the street?
Okay, again, we're outside of public portion, but I will answer your question. It's not commercial property on the other side of the street of Shore Drive. No, it's not.
Ryan's is not commercial?
No, it's not.
Okay.
That's not what it is zoned as. Anyway, we will continue.
We're at Resolution 21-129, a resolution authorizing payment of bills.
Do I have an offer?
I'll offer it.
Let me get it.
I'll offer it.
Second.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Oshewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt. Next, we have R21-130, a resolution authorizing the award of a non-fair and open contract for professional advisory services regarding the borough's medical and prescription insurance plans.
Mr. Michello, could you please explain why this is on our resolutions?
This has to deal with the health benefits portion for employees. We have an advisor, a risk manager, basically, Brown & Brown, who makes sure we're in compliance with all of our prescription plans, health benefits for all of our employees, make sure we're in compliance with all COVID regulations that came out, and all HIPAA requirements.
Thank you. I will offer it.
I'll second.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Oshewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt. Next, we have R21-131, a resolution rescinding approval of liquor license number 1317-33-003 for the 2020-2021 term.
I will offer it.
I'll second.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Oshewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt. Next, we have R21-132, a resolution approving renewal of liquor licenses for the 2021-2022 term.
I'll offer it.
I'll second.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt. The last resolution is R21-133, a resolution authorizing the refund of a certificate of occupancy application fee.
I'll offer.
Second.
Councilmember Mazzola?
Yes.
Councilmember Melnick?
Yes.
Council President Olszewski?
Yes.
Mayor Brion?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt. There are no items under other business for tonight, so next item on the agenda is reports.
Oh, okay. Tonight I have a pretty brief report. Just want to let everyone know that the county did approve the Dodge Charger for us, so the county is giving us a surplus Dodge Charger that they had for free. So we'll have a resolution on for the next meeting to accept that.
And that vehicle will be used by the First Aid
By the
Squad.
first aid, yes. I have a beach meeting tomorrow with Seabright to get the beaches ready to get open, and in the process of completing all the recycling tonnage reports for the last year.
Yes, very briefly, just want to let you know that the improvements to Locust Street project is going to be wrapping up. The drainage improvements by the contractor should be completed this week. We scheduled a top out next week, then we'll close out with the DOT. That's a DOT-funded project, as you know. I reported at the last meeting that we were, with regard to the sanitary sewer project, Phase 1, we are wrapping that project up from a design standpoint. We submitted our applications to the I-Bank. We submitted plans to the county and to the Freehold Soil Conservation District. So we are still on schedule for our mid-July advertisement. When we get the reviews back from the I-Bank, we'll make whatever minor changes we would need to make to the plan if they have any comments, and we proceed with that project.
Mr. Valesi, can you tell me what the schedule will be for completion of the design for Phase 2?
Well, we have not been authorized for Phase 2 as of yet. What had happened originally, we had a number of roads that were included, and then based upon the preliminary design, we had to scale the project in order to meet the funding that we had. So some of the roads were taken out. But the Phase 2 project will, as soon as we get this going, then we'll see if we can apply for some more funding and move forward with that phase.
So if you can just briefly describe how the Phase 1 is all of the mains and Phase 2 is more so laterals?
Well, the first phase of the project contains, as we said before, Linden Avenue, Bay Avenue, Waterwitch, Ocean, Beach Boulevard, Central Avenue, Gravelly Point Road, West North Street, Brown Street, William Street. So that's the replacement of mains. The requisite road reconstruction is going to occur because it's a very large amount of improvements that have to be made with the trenching, the lateral connections, the curb is all going to have to be redone. The second phase, because some of the roads that I had previously named, Snug Harbor Avenue, Beetle Place, Marine Place, Washington Avenue, some of those roads had to come out in order for us to be able to match the funding that you had. So at a subsequent time, we're going to look at including those roads when funding permits.
Any other questions? I guess it's time to open it to the public.
Melissa Peterson, Bay Street. 4 things. First of all, and Carolyn, you used to be vocal before you were mayor about getting the agenda out in a reasonable time. And we really used to push for it to be out on Friday. And recently, it's been out the day before, which really doesn't give the public a lot of time to absorb what's being spoken about. I think we can do better with that. Secondarily, I think it's disingenuous when it is given out the day before to table the items when people rearrange their schedules to get here for, ordinances such as the parking on Grand Tour and Highlands and Prospect, which that's been tabled like 3 or 4 times, and people have rearranged their schedules to show up. And to show up 3 or 4 times and have it be tabled 3 or 4 times is very disingenuous to the public. Secondarily, the same thing with the Locust Street residents that showed up without finding out what was going on to the last minute and have things be tabled. There's no reason to have things be tabled at the moment when you actually put it on the schedule the day before the meeting. And lastly, to have the ordinance back on for the municipal building after it was voted down is beyond belief. Like, I don't understand what happened there. And there's absolutely no reason for it to be called back. It was voted down. It seems like an ego thing. And for what reason would you have to bring it back if it was voted down? You didn't have a supermajority. So it was either one of 2 things. You thought that Kevin Martin could vote no and save face, and you could still push it through, and you didn't really understand the rules, which doesn't bode well at all. Or, you're just, you bullied him into saying, changing his mind on things. So it's one of the 2. What reason would you have to bring it back after it being over, not failing?
I don't want to speak for other people, but Mr. Martin said after the vote that he was, he misunderstood, that he didn't know that what he needed to be for.
That is not our problem.
It's not my problem either. It's, he will have to explain himself when he gets back.
So you're saying he's stupid? Okay. So how about the other stuff about?
Other stuff, agenda, I will speak with the clerk and the administrator about, and tabling, it wasn't disingenuous. Things were brought to our attention at like 6:15 this afternoon about inconsistencies within those 2 ordinances.
But the parking on Hill, this is like the 4th time. Come on. No, it's the 2nd.
I didn't have anything to do with those ordinances. Like I said, it was brought to our attention that there was inconsistencies between the 2 with overlapping streets. We wanted to do it cleanly.
It shouldn't take 4 times to get it right. Either move forward with it or don't. And basically, it is disingenuous to the people that are against it to keep on making us come back to speak up against it. That's disingenuous. Thank you.
Kim Skorka, Short Drive. Can somebody tell me what it costs to write up an ordinance, introduce it, advertise it, etc.? Ballpark. Because I know some require more work, some not so much.
I believe it depends on the length of words, Michelle, if I'm not mistaken, the cost for when you publish. It's a word count?
Yes. It depends on the word count, if there's different spaces, how many numbers. So I know there's a cost to advertise it. There's a cost for administration time, I'm sure, to put it all together. There's our attorney's time, and you keep bringing up parking ordinances. And more, like, they keep being reintroduced and tabled and passed, and oh, we gotta fix it again. Oh, we passed it, oh, we gotta fix it again. How about you do a public hearing on parking so we can all attend and tell you how parking on Shore Drive impacts us? Because I've been talking about this since you're the only one on council who approved it. Nobody else on council was on at the time. The permit parking on Shore Drive. I've been talking about how it has impacted Shore Drive and C Street since it was introduced. And every time I talk about it, I say, but please, leave the Locust and Willow parking, the permits. They need it down there. It gets tight in the summer with the restaurant and the marina. And you know what? You don't listen to me. You don't hear a thing that I say because that's one of the reasons it's being tabled, is because you took off the parking for Willow and Locust where they need it the most. And I wasn't sure if you could do it by address, which I would say permit parking from the houses just past Bayview condos. A couple of them have some multifamily, they need the street parking, give them their permits down Shore Drive. We don't need permit parking from the C Street area over to Waterwich. Everybody has parking lots, multi-car driveways. My condos, we have the municipal lot across the street. Thankfully, you're not enforcing the ordinance where we have to vacate by 10 o'clock, but that's all good. But I think you're wasting a hell of a lot of money reintroducing these ordinances and spinning your wheels. What else was on my list? I'm going to run through these real quick because I don't want to run out of time. Given the amount of people who are attending these meetings in person, you may want to consider relocating to one of the gymnasiums at the schools or doing a hybrid Zoom in-person meeting. I'd like to know the status of the DCA, the state DCA study on the police department and potentially lowering our cost. I'd like to know the status of the fee ordinance that I've been asking about for a number of years. It appears that our DPW, on a Friday morning, took borough barriers, brought them to private property, set them up for an event for a private 501c3, and then after the weekend broke them down and took them back, all at no cost to that nonprofit. What is the status of the COVID CARES money from the county? I believe we're still waiting on the fourth quarter reimbursement. And then there's American Recovery Act funds. We can get up to $400,000, and we have to earmark that money, and it can be spent on stormwater, sanitary, or public property. That could help with that I-Bank project down in this area, which I'm still curious why we're doing work on Gravelly Point. I thought that was a private road, and they were responsible for their sewer line, but I might be wrong on that one. And with regards to the redevelopment resolution that was passed tonight, when you're putting 100 some odd block and lots in a resolution, is it possible we get a map? That's an awful lot of block numbers for an individual to look up. And even if I took my 5 friends in town and we divide and conquer, that's a lot of stuff for us to look up. You know, at specific street numbers and addresses might be too much, but if you just attach the map and color coded those lot and blocks, it'd be a lot more helpful. Thank you.
Chief Burton, Highlands Police, if I can just direct everybody's attention who's here for parking, please direct your attention to me, okay? We don't have to do it here tonight, by all means, if you want to. You have the right to speak here. But if you have parking concerns, you have questions, please seek me out. Obviously, these were tabled tonight. They were tabled for a few reasons. You can reach me Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 normally. You can email me. I had which I think was a very good meeting the other night with a lot of residents up in the area of Highland Avenue, South Peak Street, Grand Tour, to explain what was going on. So please, again, if you want to speak tonight, go right ahead. But if you have other issues, save it and talk to me during the week. Okay? Thank you.
Claudette Dorigo, 12 Cedars. So you're telling this audience and the public that you don't understand as a council what a supermajority vote is, so therefore, because one council member didn't understand that, you are going to bring back an ordinance that failed. Is that what you're telling us?
I never said that this council members that are sitting at this table do not understand that you need a supermajority.
Well, you're bringing back an ordinance that failed. What is your reason?
I told you that one council member who was not here to defend himself and to give you his side of that story did not understand that to be true.
So when you first became a council member and you accidentally, or so you claimed, voted for the labor attorney, Mr. Padula, we did not re-vote because you made a mistake, and you said you made a mistake. So, but we're going to re-vote on a major issue like this in town, where you're going to put the taxpayers on the hook for at least $7 million, when they already have $2 million on the hook for Sandy grants, and you're going to re-vote on this?
You can't compare the two?
Sure you can.
No, you can't.
It's my tax dollars, it's everyone in this room's tax dollars.
The resolution for a labor attorney is the mayor's appointment with advice and consent of the council. That vote went through with advice and consent of the council.
I am talking about this ordinance that you are bringing back, that you're avoiding addressing.
Just note that the
I'm
public
not,
hearing
I'm,
is scheduled
the
for June
schedule,
16th.
exactly. The hearing is on the 16th of July, and
But
that's when we can address
Why
it.
is it being readdressed? It failed.
Okay, we've
So-
heard you the first three
Half
times.
the country doesn't like the president, so we're gonna redo the election.
No, not exactly the same.
Yes, it is!
Okay,
Oh my
if
God.
we can move on.
Can I get answers to any of my questions, please?
Amazing.
I believe the chief answered your question about the permit parking. Number of people attending, the governor is going to magically take away all of the laws that governed, gatherings, so there is no limit anymore. Status of DCA, I don't know what that is.
Thank you for supplying me with the number. I've called, we traded phone calls a couple times, but with the holiday, we just haven't connected. Hopefully I'll have an answer for you by the next meeting.
The AFT money, from the federal government, that's, I believe off the top of my head, $466,000, of which we're supposed to get half of it in this year sometime after June, and the other half at the same time in next year. There's a list of things you can use it for, there's a list of things you absolutely cannot use it for, and I think I forwarded that to everybody, that list, that comprehensive list. There was like 5 attachments to that email. So we have to plan for what we're going to use that for. Then I think that there was COVID money from the CARES Act money.
Yes.
If you would like to speak to that.
I don't have any information on it for you right now. I just wasn't prepared for it tonight, so I'll have it tonight.
There is a map for the area of redevelopment, the CBD zone. It's on the website under Borough Reports, and it is color-coded.
Thank you.
The fee ordinance, the fee ordinance is actually where we found the discrepancy with the police department overtime hours, so that is something that needs to get addressed. Usually, the fee ordinance and the salary ordinance are looked at once a year, at the very least every other year, just to make sure that we're in line with where we should be with both, with the unions as well as what other towns are doing. I think I got that all?
Thank you.
Okay. Please, go ahead.
Michelle Diebel, 221 Nativisink Avenue. I'm like in total shock that you're disregarding what everyone voted on the last council meeting. I pretty much think that aborters aren't illegal.
It is not illegal.
Well, I'd like to ask the people here, does anybody think it's right?
Ms. Diebel, you can speak to a room that you've packed, but I've also
I
spoken
haven't
to
packed
a lot of people that live in this town and pay taxes in this town, and who were flabbergasted about what happened.
Where are
And it just, wow, there's no reason to act in such a bullying behavior. We are all neighbors. We can speak in a normal tone of voice, we can speak one at a time, and even if we disagree, we can still have a conversation.
I agree with that.
Okay.
But you're not answering the question of why you're bringing it back. Two other people asked it, why are you bringing it back up in an ordinance, the same exact ordinance when it was already voted down? And if it's because a councilman made a mistake, that's a pretty big mistake, as someone said. President, we're not changing presidents.
Well, we're not electing presidents in this room.
No, but you're doing something that's impacting everyone in this room.
Exactly. And I can tell you right now that it is not illegal to bring back an ordinance that has failed.
Well, I don't know if it's illegal, but
And it's not unethical either.
it's disingenuous to the people that voted.
What is the referendum?
Put it on the ballot, let us vote.
And also the sewers, the streets that are being, with sewer, how were they chosen and how were some left out?
I can respond to that.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Originally, well, the main thing was that the main line on Bay Avenue was the first one, it's the longest run, and that had to be chosen because it's a county road, we don't know if the county's gonna resurface the road, we have no control over that. So from there, we extended the sewers from Bay Avenue, and that's the logical way that it could be done, and we think in the most efficient way possible. The funding ordinance was $5 million. The I-Bank will only fund at a maximum 50% of that $5 million. That's how the borough came up with that ordinance. And we would like to include all the roads if we possibly could. But it was done, we felt from an engineering standpoint, in the most logical manner.
And so, one question, how do you end up all the way down on Gravelly when you have other streets that you said you canceled that were off of it in town?
The roads that will
And
be
that
done.
was once a private.
Well, first of all, the sewer, and we reviewed this with council, the sewer main there's an easement over it, is the borough owned, it is borough owned, the sewer is borough owned, the road is not, but the sewer, so that was a decision that was made to get that done as well. But the roads that would be reserved for phase 2 are in the lowest lying areas of the borough, and it was felt that when we attacked that, we could deal with some of the drainage issues that area has been experiencing. If we went ahead and did the sanitary sewer improvements in that area, it would impact our ability to do drainage improvements, which are of significant sum money. So that was from an engineering standpoint, that was the intent of the project.
But you're going over Gravelly Point, which is a private road. No one is allowed down that road if you're not a resident, basically, or a guest or a resident. That's a private road that we're using public funding for.
The sewer main itself is not, it is a public sewer main.
Okay, and who absorbs the cost of the road?
The only work that would be done is to restore the road in its original condition. So the sewer main, there was no other improvement to the road other than the replacement of the main.
So it's going to still be a dirt road?
Yes.
And we will assume putting it back in the way it was, that our townspeople, is Gravelly Point people at any cost, are they putting anything towards a private road? Then I guess it would be public funding, we're publicly funding the road.
You're publicly funding the replacement of the sewer main, which by virtue of it having I&I problems like the other sewers in the area, it's to the benefit of the public because you're going to be reducing your sewage treatment costs by not having the inflow and infiltration problems that you have. So there is a public purpose to it.
But no funding from the Gravelly Point people on a private road.
Again, the only improvement that's being made is the removal and replacement of the main, which is aged and which has experienced I&I problems to the detriment of the entire borough. There is no other improvements. In fact, it is the borough's responsibility because they own, operate, and maintain the main within an easement that is spelled out in the deed.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hi, Trisha Rivera, Waterway Avenue. First, I'm going to start with the skate park. Did you guys try and get the LRIG Recreation Improvement Grant? The deadline was 5/24, and I know I emailed it to you. I emailed it to Linda. I know she forwarded on. Did we put in for that?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Anyone? No? We didn't put in for a grant that it
No.
was for recreation improvement, where we might be paying $500 for a skate park. Nobody.
If we get this grant, we won't be paying $500,000 for a skate
Right,
park either.
there was a recreation grant we could have put in for, and we could have gotten money for it, and you just ignored it. Number one. On resolution 21-126, I happen to notice a black and white on there, which is 114 3-02, which is public property. It's the public property near the Valley National Bank. I don't think public property any of our public property should be given to a planner for redevelopment plans at all. I think it should be left up to the public, what we want to do with our property. There's not much of it left. So, I don't know how many of these blocks and lots are public property, but I think they all need to be taken off and separately discussed with the public. Not given away for development without the public knowing about it.
This is the property next to the bank?
Yep, and I don't even know how many of the...
That's not public property, it is owned by the bank.
I actually confirmed it with Pat, so that's...
We did a title search on it, and it's owned by the bank.
I was told a month ago that the borough owns it when I asked about snow removal and mowing the lawn. Yeah.
I thought it was.
The website is borough property.
Look, for that one, I screwed up on it. That one was my fault, 100%. I thought it was our property.
It is our property.
It's not our property. Brian, can I comment?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, it's not our own property, but they're working on it. And
Well, then they haven't paid taxes on that property for a very, very long time, because I've been following that property. So then they owe a lot of back taxes on that property. So if it's not our property, which Pat actually, I emailed him and he confirmed to me it was. And if it's not our property, then the bank owes us a hell of a lot of back taxes. So I suggest you look into that, because maybe we can pay for our sewer lines over here that you took out of the project. And I have the Oswald scoping report, and this area here is the worst. We have people with hazmat suits coming down our blocks, checking our drains. We have the worst infiltration in this area, phase 2, that you took out. It's a disgrace. I came here years and years and years begging for this project, and you just took it all away, and you put Gravelly Point in that wasn't in the flow study. We were all in the flow study, wasn't in the flow study, doesn't have storm drains or pipes, so no I&I, and has no outflows. So you take out this area that gets slammed from 36 runoff and coves, and you take us out of it, we get slammed over here. And I have the Oswald sanitary scoping report. Almost every pipe in this area says replace, 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 replace. That's how bad it is over here. Because I know, because hazmat suits come down my block. So I want you to rethink that. You need to rethink it. That's one thing. And then if you have $800,000 in the capital fund, and then we received $463,000 in the American Rescue Plan that we could put towards sewer and stormwater, let's put it over here. Can we get some help over here?
We have not received that money.
Well, you will, though.
Yeah.
You will. And you have 800. And you took us out of the most, I'm going to reach out to the DEP. I'm reaching out to everybody regarding this, because this is nonsense. This area is why we got that project.
Mr.
This is
Rico?
what affects the beach.
I'm sorry, I'm just letting you know you're
Okay.
near your...
It's a disgrace what you did for your buddies.
Seriously, it is.
Okay.
Welcome on board, again.
Okay. If there's no other comments, oh, come on, Mayor.
Rick O'Neill, 224 Navasink Avenue. There's a misnomer, I think, here with this whole sewer thing. There was conversations, myself, Ms. Gonzalez, Mr. Valesi, Doug Rollmeyer went through this process. And the main process was to get the main from Gravelly Point to Bars basically put in, connect everything afterwards. There were sewer studies done, yes. The question about what was going on down on Gravelly Point was, Gravelly Point, as I recall, wanted to put a new road in and some drainage in there. I believe then, I believe now, that the Borough of Highlands owns that sewer system there. So there is no reason for us to let them put in a sewer, drainage in there and a road for us to come back and do the sewer. There was conversation, and there'll be people, if you ask them down there, that will attest to it, that we were going to look to do a joint project, sewers, drainage, road, at the same time, whether by the township's construction outfit, or if they were going to hire somebody side by side to do that. But that's how I recall that was going to happen, you know? The other streets, as I recall with talking to, I dealt with Mr. Romeyer mostly, were we're going to run the main down the street, branch off the main to the access roads on the side for a future tie-in to wherever it was going to be. So when Bay Avenue does get paved, and it was supposed to be paved, except we were having a sewer project done on Bay Avenue. So when it gets paved, you don't have to cut back into Bay Avenue like happens so many times. You know, you pave it Tuesday and Friday, there's a jackhammer out there cutting it up. So it was going to be stubbed out. Am I correct on that, Mr. Willis? Yes. It would be stubbed out like that, so future connections can be made. We knew we didn't have enough money to do the whole job, but that's where we tried to work it out, you know, and that's, I believe, as I recall, what it was. And it wasn't going to, I remember at the last meeting, there was conversation about stormwater runoff and a pump station and all that kind of stuff. You know, we were interested in that at the time, but the people who lived down here didn't want a pump station. People who lived on the waterfront really didn't want a bulkhead or some other kind of flood prevention on the property, and it was voted down. That's how it is. So I wouldn't say that there was any deception that went on here, because I believe as it went, it was true. You know, whether or not Gravely Point needs a new sewer main, scope it. You'll find out. If it needs it, you fix it. If it doesn't need it, you don't fix it. You know, it's, you know, you say no I&I, but if that sewer main's deeper than high water, you're going to get I&I. It's going to work that way, you know. Let's put that personal kind of thing aside, and I'm a personal kind of guy, and get the thing fixed. You know, every ounce of water, I sat on the sewage authority for 20 years almost, every ounce of water you take out of the sewer, you save money. So, and I understand there's a lot of work to be done, there really is. But, you know, you only have so much money, you got to do the best you can with it, but that's how I remember it. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, if I could not to be very for the point at all, but when the town had undertaken, you know, the drainage study, there were very, very large drainage pipes going into the area that is now the phase 2 of the project. If we installed those sewer mains now, we would have had to redo that when we install these very, very large pipes that would eventually go to Jones Creek, which would then have the pump station to evacuate this water. So without the pump station, you know, logically, it just didn't make a lot of sense from an engineering standpoint to pursue that area, just as Mayor O'Neill had said. And that's the impetus for what went into the selection of the roads. And naturally, the cost for the pump station, the piping, and of course the rest of the sewer main were well over in excess of what the bond ordinance had and, you know, funded. So that was why those roads were selected.
Okay. If you could just, it's just that the microphone picks up better than just, your normal cadence of your voice.
Tom Reed, Snug Harbor Ave. I just wanted to maybe a quick, good evening, Mayor and Council, quick maybe definition. Let's say a property on Bay Avenue qualifies and then is designated as an area in need of redevelopment. What's the causal effect to that property? Is this to...
There does not need to be an effect.
Right.
If you want to develop it in a different manner, you would be able to. If you don't want to do anything, you don't do anything.
Redevelopment is a zoning tool, and right now this is the first step to study whether it qualifies to meet the criteria as a need of redevelopment, and they're going to go before the planning board, and there'll be...
What I'm saying is it qualifies and it's designated as in need, in an area that needs redevelopment.
But it's being studied right now. It has not been designated, it hasn't been qualified as anything.
And then
Tom,
ultimately-
End result, if a property is designated and does qualify and is specified as in need of redevelopment, what does that mean?
A redevelopment plan is created, which is essentially the zoning, and it can supersede or it can be an overlay zone, but it can, in the other two areas.
What does it mean to the
zoning.
owners of the properties on Bay Avenue?
that if they want to do something different outside of the regular zoning, they can. And if they don't want to do anything, they don't have
So
to.
what we're saying is we're gonna look at residential and then decide if we include that into the,
All the properties are being studied. I would ask you to come to the land use board tomorrow because the planner will be giving a presentation and he will be able to answer your questions
right.
because he's been studying these areas for a long time.
What time? No,
7:30.
I know, 30 years ago, we had a redevelopment plan.
This is the first step, and it's a long process, so.
Yeah. All right, and then real quick, what was, the resolution of 2225? What resolution was that? If this resolution is gonna supersede that, what are we superseding?
Oh, they were just correct, they have special counsel for redevelopment, but they were just correcting some of the lots and blocks from the prior resolution.
How do you get a list of lots and blocks that is included in this now?
It's on the resolution.
It's on the resolution.
It's there.
All right, where do you get the copy of the resolution?
It's on the
Right.
Borough website.
Yeah.
All right, Borough website, thank you. Lastly, this has nothing to do with eminent domain, right?
No,
That's why I'm here, someone told me, and said,
it's not eminent, no. There's two different ways to do development areas, and we chose to do non-condemnation, which means no eminent domain. You're welcome.
Dead ahead of you.
Okay, Martin. Martin, you're going to close us out, okay?
There you go. Maybe on a good note.
Sure.
Personally, I would like to thank the city council for having the
I'm sorry, can
wherewithal
you,
to fund the police department.
sir, I'm sorry.
Name
can
and
you just
address.
State your name and
Martin
address.
Riley, B5 Ocean View Terrace. We had a meeting the other night with the chief and his lieutenant, and it was a super productive meeting. We understood everything that was going to happen with parking. Didn't like some of it, but we understand now exactly what was happening and what's going on. And when you pick up a phone in this town, whether you're up at East Point or Veterans Park or Gravelly Point, you have a police car in 2 minutes. That's life-saving time. I don't want any funding cut from our police department, our fire department, or our EMS, regardless of the numbers, regardless of the cost. That is a valuable service that makes our town what it is today. That's the good news. Shore Drive, not commercial? What is it? What's the designation across the street from City Hall?
It's single-family residential.
And those big trucks that go in and out of that one-family house?
This was zoned way before I ever came to live here.
But there's no zoning that identifies that area? And if there isn't, don't you think it should be included, at least grandfathered in? I mean, the guys have been there forever. As a matter of fact, they saved the town probably $100,000 a few weeks ago.
It's something to be brought up to the land use board to change the zoning of those lots and blocks.
Okay. Wrong place. Got it.
Does anyone else have anything they want to add?
I don't see any.
Melissa? Linda, you have anything you want to add? All right, then I am going to motion to adjourn. Close public portion, and then I will motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.